Morning, everyone. I think I know a lot of people on this call, so thank you again for joining us. So, I invited you here to learn about Parker Dewey only because it's another extension of our office. It's one of the companies we partner with, and we wanted to make sure that you're aware of how to utilize it for your own needs, especially if you are a nonprofit and you know you don't have a large budget to spare even if you're already participating in our SOAR internship program, but you have maybe more than one project or you need more interns and you do have a few, a small budget that you could use to provide a more project-based work with someone who has a more higher skill set. So I wanted to share this with you just to, again, and learn another supplementary program that you can participate with and know that we work with Parker Dewey, so it's definitely a vetted resources for you. It's not going to be a long presentation today, just half an hour, and Emily will definitely take all your questions. But feel free to also ask me questions as well in the chat. But I'll definitely do let Emily do her thing. And then thank you again for just listening on the presentation.
All right, thank you so much. Hi, everyone. My name is Emily Kravitz. I'm the Employer Engagement Specialist here at Parker Dewey. That basically means my role is to help all of you as LaGuardia Community College employers as you're thinking about new ways to connect with students there or to really make better and more informed and cost-effective hiring decisions. Whether you're looking to hire one intern or 10, or you're not sure if you have needs at all, we really can play a role in that to help support those needs. I'm getting ready to close the poll, but I wanted to share the results. Looks like we've got a tie on which of the following is a goal for your organization. We've got a tie between do more with less, which is something I'm hearing across the board, both with small organizations as well as large corporations. And then also build and strengthen recruiting relationships with specific institutions. So hopefully, again, you're here because you're looking to do more with LaGuardia Community College, and this is great. So I appreciate you taking the time to respond to that. I'm going to go ahead and end the poll, and I'm going to put my slides up so we can move on. All right. So we're out talking all about micro-internships today. So first and foremost, what do we do here at Parker Dewey? We've been around now for about a decade. Since our founding, we're 100% focused on creating real and experiential recruiting opportunities for you as an employer to work with early talent. And we use a skills first framework to see that in action. We find that this is time tested and proven. We've really been playing around with it and perfecting it for 10 years now. We wanted to make it very accessible for all of the early career hiring, all the college student recruiting that you might be doing. Removed all the friction, all the paperwork, the hassle that usually exists when you're thinking about hiring a college student, excuse me, which makes it really easy for you to capture any data that you need and respond to changing needs. So first, I want to also define what a micro internship is. And so I want to make clear that a micro internship is not meant to replace a traditional internship. So if you currently have a summer internship program, we're not saying, hey, cancel that, you don't need it anymore. We want you to think about micro internships as a really great resource to support making sure you're making the best hires for your internship program. Or maybe you don't have an internship program, you don't have the budget, you just need some help here and there. Micro internships can be a really great resource for you as well. But in short, these are bite-sized experiences that are both engaging to students. Students want to learn in this type of way. They want to learn about your organization, and we also find that they stay engaged with you even after these projects are done. It allows you to quickly see a student's interest and their skills in a way that you really can't capture from a resume. I used to work in career services as well prior to coming to Parker Dewey. I've seen thousands of resumes over the years, and often student resumes look very similar. And so you might get a stack of resumes at an event that you attend or just when you post a position, but it's kind of difficult to tell who's behind that paper and what skills the student can bring to the table. But micro internships are short term paid professional projects. You can post these projects whenever you like. They are typically between 10 to 40 hours of work for the most part, and they're often done remotely. They are meant to have very little administrative burden or a time crunch on your end as the employer. Because these are short term projects, again, 20 hours, 30 hours, whatever the case may be, we are not looking for you to bring the student onto your payroll, have to go through an in-depth orientation, give them a whole tour of the office, find them a desk. We're not looking for any of that. We're looking to work with you to create some projects that a student can do independently outside of your internal tools and platforms and passwords and things like that. And so Each of these projects ends with a student deliverable. Once a student turns in that deliverable to you, they are now done with that micro internship. So if you're looking for like a long-term temp or something like that, this probably isn't the right fit. But micro internships are a really great way for you to get a taste of what the student is capable of. Maybe you have a need for help with your website and you're not sure if you have the budget to hire a full-time web developer. You can bring on a micro intern to work on some of those basic things that you need in a short-term project. And then if they're a great fit, now you've had a chance to try before you buy, if you will. You've had that chance to sort of audition that student and get a fit for if they're going to be a good long-term hire for you. And then how does the pay process work? So there's no cost for you at all to create an account on the Parker Dewey platform. There's no cost for you to post a project. The only time a cost is involved is if you select a student for one of your projects. Our projects are low cost. They're typically less than really $500 a project for the most part. We base it on the student being paid the equivalent of $20 to $25 per hour. So again, if they're doing a 20-hour project at $20 an hour, that's easy math that you can figure out. Parker Dewey takes a 10% fee. That's to cover our administrative burden because, again, the student is on our books the entire time. We are the employer of record. So you're not having, again, to get them onto your payroll or anything like that. We simply invoice you at the end of the project, and that's how the cost goes. There's no any subscription fees or anything like that. If you post a project and you don't find a student that you'd like to work with, we simply close the project out and there's no cost involved with that at all. Also, we're not a staffing firm or a third party agency. So if you do meet a student that you like for your potential openings down the road, there's no finder's fee or conversion fee or anything like that. We want to see our students get hired by all of you great employers. So again, why do we set this up this way? On the employer side, we want to make it very easy. You're not going to have to spend the time sourcing through a million resumes or onboarding or training. Again, these are short-term projects. You want to look at the potential roles for students beyond what they're just seeing on your company website, and they're just available for students to take on in a low stakes way. Some employers will use these, and I'll talk about some of the use cases in just a minute, to almost audition students for open roles, and that's great. Other employers are just looking to get some things done and get some extra help. And so either of those options are great use cases for working with Parker Dewey. I also want to make clear that we have no deadlines. There's no timeline you have to follow. If you want to post a micro internship when we get off the call today, you're welcome to. You don't have to align to LaGuardia's academic calendar. It doesn't have to be part of a class. It can be done during breaks, during the semester, whenever you're looking to post. So typically you can have a student, applying to projects within 48 hours of posting your project. So again, I talked a bit about this, but I want to expand on this is why are the kind of the main use cases for why you might want to use Parker Dewey. So the primary goal for a lot of our employers is to think of this as a recruiting tool. It's designed to help you do one of two things. And first, confirming your fit and hiring with confidence. So again, here's where you might want to think about that concept of an audition. Maybe you've seen a lot of resumes that look the same. Maybe you've made some hires and haven't been thrilled with their work product. And you recognize that it takes time and money to make a good hire. And so you can give students a 15, 20-hour project that not only confirms their ability to do what you're asking for, but it also can see if they can stand behind that skill section on their resume. If you are used to visiting campus and maybe you have gone to some recruiting events, career fairs, or what have you, informational sessions, again, you probably see very similar content, same GPA, similar majors. And so this really helps you differentiate among students, confirm your fit, and get a great chance to see their skills in action. Employers also use us as a great resource for building that talent pipeline as well as brand awareness. So again, you may be a small or medium-sized organization or a nonprofit that has really great opportunities for early career talent, but students aren't familiar with your brand name or they've never come across your product in their life before. And so maybe you're posting internships or full-time jobs and not seeing a lot of interest. And so this is a really great way to kind of build your name among LaGuardia Community College students. So it's a great way to kind of build those connections. And so you might see a micro internship in that case look like a campus ambassador. Maybe you have a student take a 10-hour project with you to kind of help promote what you do as a great opportunity to their peers and their classrooms, to their student orgs that they participate in, just a kind of way to kind of build that connection as well. You may also, again, because students might be transferring or moving on to a four-year school at some point, and you have a small window of time to connect with them, it's just a great way to build awareness as well. And so you're letting students know, hey, we've got this great opportunity out here that we'd like you to consider. So another really great use case if you have these recruiting needs. A third case, which many of you on the call may also be thinking about, is look, I just need to get stuff done. I have busy times a year. I'm a small business trying to grow. I'm a startup. We don't have a budget for a whole, recruiting strategy or a big internship program, and that's totally fine. Micro interns can also really help fill the gap there. And so, like I'm thinking of an example where we worked with a nonprofit who had an annual fundraising event, and so they brought on a graphic design micro intern to design their program booklet. And so again, they didn't have to hire that student. They didn't have to go out and spend a lot of time and money looking to recruit them. They could just simply post a project on the Parker Dewey platform that a student could apply to, and within a few days, the student was ready to get to work. So when you're getting help on a project, you're also getting insight into some data on the student as well. So again, you may or may not be looking to hire 100 interns this summer. Maybe you just need one, or maybe you're just trying to keep a pulse on what's happening in the campus community. And so one real big takeaway from this slide is just it's much easier, faster, and cheaper to hire when you start with a micro internship project. Again, and you're getting insight into the candidate's skills, their soft skills, things that are not going to come across on a resume or even during an interview, for example. When you can see the student's skills in action, you're able to make better hiring decisions. So, what does it look like to get a micro internship project created? First, I don't want you to panic. We will help you create projects. So, if you're thinking, this is an interesting concept, I have no ideas in mind on how we can utilize this, we will work with you. We actually have an entire operations team, all US based, that is here to support helping you scope out some micro internship project ideas. We also have some examples on our website and some other tools that we're going to be deploying to help you create great projects. And of course, I'm happy to help you with that as well. A great way to sort of get started is just to send us an entry level job description that you have. Maybe it's for an internship, maybe it's for a full-time role that you're looking to hire. We can take that, and in this case, there's an entry level data marketer position, and sort of unpack it and create a micro internship here. It's in the competitive campaign analysis space. It's primarily a research project. So you see, we're not asking you to have the student get into your internal systems. We're not asking you to have the student have access to passwords or software or things like that. They're able to do a research project for you and turn that deliverable into you at the end so that, again, you're able to start to see insight into lots of different skills. In addition to that, all the work that a student does in their micro internship project is owned by you. So you might just simply be using these projects to, again, audition a student to try them out before you make a hire. But maybe you just need to get some work done as well. And so if a student creates something for you, you then own that work and you're able to deploy it within your organization. So I want to give you a couple of real life examples of how employers have used Parker Dewey. And so in this case, we do have a large publicly traded company, Smith and Nephew. But despite being a company filled with resources and great opportunities, they just didn't have a lot of brand recognition among students. They would come to campus, they had a strong desire to recruit from a particular school and just weren't seeing a lot of interest. And so in this case, they created a pitch deck. That was their project. It was very simple and straightforward. We worked with them to come up with ideas because students were kind of passing them by. And so the students' micro internship project was, hey, take a look at all the Smith and Nephew product line, pick a product, and develop a pitch deck. This allows the company to see the students' research skills in action as well as their communication skills as well. And so when the project was done, not only did Smith and Nephew have some great outside opinions, courtesy of the students, on some of their product lines, but they were able to identify students who would be a great long-term fit. And so in this case, they had 12 micro interns that applied and auditioned and were interested in this role. And they were able to extend 6 full-time offers because they were able to see a great look inside what the student was capable of doing. 5 out of those 6 students decided to accept. 100% of those students were still with the organization after a year. And that's challenging in this time when college students might jump to what they consider to be the next great thing. And this was all accomplished for less than 40% of the typical hiring costs. So great success there. A few other examples as well. Working with another company on campus ambassadors, worked with Train Technology. And so really looking to have the student come on campus, promote on their social media, talk with some faculty in the relevant area, maybe get involvement with some of the local student orgs that are relevant as well. Just a great way to generate interest in advance of you spending time and money and energy to be, in multiple places at once on campus to get that word out yourself. We also had an interesting case with Northrop Grumman, another very large organization, but in this case, their challenge was that students weren't able to think of them as an employer of choice unless they were an engineering student. So they were thinking, I don't want to work at this company. I'm a marketing major. I don't see any fit for me here. Or, maybe you work in the healthcare industry and a student might think, well, they're only looking to hire nurses. So this doesn't apply to me as a student that aspires to work in something completely different. And so this is a great way to still build that pipeline, even if students are having a hard time connecting the dots. And so in this case, they had an HR project posted, low stakes project. They were just looking to test the waters and see what it looked like. They didn't even care if the student was a declared HR major. They just wanted to see kind of what was out there for students. And so one of our great Parker Dewey students who hadn't really thought yet about what her major was going to look like was perusing the Parker Dewey platform and came across this project. She was not familiar with Northrop Grumman. She hadn't really thought about HR as a career path, but said, hey, this might be interesting. I'm going to go ahead and apply. And so you see a little quote from her in the corner. I wasn't familiar with Northrop Grumman at all before finding this micro internship. I had no idea how big of a company it was. And so, one of the big outcomes that we find is that students become more aware of organizations that are local to the area by doing these micro internship projects. And so, again, this is a low stakes project. It wasn't going to make or break, what Northrop Grumman did moving forward, but it got them access to students that they really weren't targeting or reaching before. And then the student was able to find a great organization that had hiring needs that she was not familiar with prior to taking on this project. So if you are trying to build relationships with certain majors or certain types of students, this is really a great way to do it. And here you get a look at some of the real impact and some of the longer term outcomes. And so, great for reaching different demographics. 80% of the students that complete micro internships come from underrepresented backgrounds. This is an especially impressive statement when you compare to students who do traditional internships that are paid. When we look at the data, barely a quarter of paid internships are being completed by those historically underrepresented students. Given that so many Parker Dewey projects are remote, and I do want to make the case that they don't have to be remote. So if you do want a student to come on site, you are welcome to do that. But in general, most of these projects are remote because we want to make it very easy for you, and we don't want you to have to worry about it while the student is doing the work sort of in the background. If you want to engage with the student more and you want to get to know them and check in with them every Monday on a phone call, you are welcome to, but it's not mandatory. And because these projects are short term, students are able to continue to take class, to continue to work at their part-time job, continue to take care of their family responsibilities while also getting relevant work experience on their resume. You can also see that the average cost per hire for campus recruiting shows a real impact with the 40 to 80% savings. And then also look at the retention rate for students that complete micro internships. It's almost 100%. So if you're having challenges keeping students or keeping entry level talent, this is a great way to think about it. Almost 100% of micro internship students are using micro internships to find their fit, and it really does make a difference. And by giving students an opportunity to work on these projects and paying them to do it, it leads to more time and cost effectiveness for hiring. Okay, I'm going to pause here just for a second. I think I'm seeing popping up in the chat. Are majority of students nearing graduation? Parker Dewey is open to all students at LaGuardia Community College. And so it's a great way to reach students at different points of time in their college career. So if you're looking for students that are nearing graduation, you can put that preference in your project post. If you're flexible and you don't mind if it doesn't matter what year in school they are, you can leave it open as well. There's even an option to select students that are recent graduates as well. So you have some flexibility there. Oops, I skipped this slide. Okay.
Can I just add
Moving.
one something real quick?
Yep.
So,
Mhm.
just for context, a lot of our students who are graduating at LaGuardia are also large percentage of them are still moving on to a 4-year school in the CUNY
Mhm.
system. So I'm glad Emily brought up the transfer part. You actually don't lose them even if they're transferring, right? They could still do their projects with you over the summer in between
Yeah.
finishing up at LaGuardia and moving on to Baruch or Hunter College or whatnot. So they're still within the CUNY system, so we all are work together nonetheless. So it's a good way to just keep the talent going, and then have access to talent even beyond LaGuardia.
Absolutely. Yep. They can stay in your pipeline. Again, we have no finder's fee or anything like that. You meet a student that you like, you can keep in touch with them while they continue their studies easily. And I do want to make a case too. Parker Dewey is for all employers. And so I know I've mentioned a couple of large employers just because they had some, use cases that were recent and on top of my mind. But we work with startups, we work with nonprofits, we work with local government, we work with small businesses, we work with large corporations. I'm working with a trade association today, that's on my mind. So there's a space on Parker Dewey for all types of employers, and we welcome all different kinds of projects as well. Okay, and again, that third use case that we talked about, that get stuff done. I'm looking at my own to-do list over here. It sure would be nice to cross some of it off my list with a micro intern. Again, if you're having an annual fundraiser, if you need help with your website, we see a ton of projects in the social media space. Again, the student is not going to take over your social media account. You're not having to give them your password or anything like that, but they can put together a month of posts for you and turn it into in a Word document, right? So that you can then deploy on your own. And so I'm thinking about some recent projects that I've had in that for small businesses in the social media space, and that was a great win for them. They actually had a student, this was a hospitality company, small business in Florida, had a student do some research for him on if he should be on Instagram or TikTok and why. And so the student was able to do that. And then he hired a second student who actually came in and wrote content for him that he could then use at certain points of the year. So, just an example of how I'm seeing some organizations do social media projects. But again, we have all sorts of ideas and interesting projects that are out there and would love to hear more about what you're looking to do. Okay, so how do you actually get started posting? And so we might try to make it as easy as possible for you. So first, again, think of what your project might look like. If you're not sure, if you're struggling, if you need some help, happy to work with you on that. No problem. We can talk through some ideas and see what might be a fit for your organizational needs. Once you post a project on the Parker Dewey platform, the students need to apply to it. So we do not match a student for you or assign you a student. We want to make sure that the students who are applying have some intentional friction in their process. We remove the friction on your end as an employer, but for the students, we want them to be proactive and intentional in this interest. We want them to not just apply to 100 different things and hope one of them sticks. We want them to show genuine interest in wanting to do a project for you. So you'll be able to see their application. You'll be able to see the answers to some short answer questions that you can develop through the platform. You can see maybe their social media if they include that. So you'll get a chance to see the students and decide who you'd like to select for the project. And then from there, the work gets done. And so again, you can connect with the student on a regular basis if that feels like the right move for you, or if you feel comfortable just having them kind of get started in the background and move the project forward, that's fine as well. I'm going to show you what it looks like to post. I'm going to stop the share here and I'm going to show you, this is on our website, our project library, just as a way to get things started. Let me reshare my screen here. Okay, so this is especially helpful for those of you that are like, I really don't know what I want to post. And so we gave you a couple of ideas and some suggestions. By no means are you limited to just these ideas. You'll notice on each of the pages, there's always a custom project template. So if you're like, none of these apply to what I'm looking for, there's always a chance to create something custom. So just because we were just talking about social media, I'm going to go into marketing here. Here is a content calendar project. So I'm going to click on this template. And this takes you into the Parker Dewey platform. This is what it will look like once you create your free account on the platform. So you'll post the name of your project, when you expect the project to start and wrap up. We have a guide already embedded into the platform. So if you need some more support with posting a custom project, that's a great place to get started. But with here within the body of the project, this is when you're going to put a little bit about what your organization does, what the goals of the project are, and then of course what that final deliverable will look like for you. So In this case, again, this is just a template, very basic information here, but they were looking for a social media content calendar with 2 posts per day for a month. And then here you indicate where this is located, if it's remote or on site. You'll always see up front exactly what you owe for each project. So there's no hidden costs or hidden fees or anything like that. I mentioned before, Parker Dewey keeps a 10% fee to cover our costs, and then 90% of the project fee goes directly to the student. We handle invoicing you and paying the student. So you don't need to, again, payroll the student or anything like that. We will handle the payment to the student when they turn the project in. Other than that, there's no other hidden cost or anything like that. And you can play around and say, okay, I'm looking for a 30-hour project, 20-hour, whatever the case may be. You're welcome to add any skills. So again, you might want to add in social media tools or whatever, you're welcome to. You can leave that blank. Down here is where you get a chance to spotlight this project specifically for students at LaGuardia. Or in this, as the students continue on locally with the four-year schools, you can include that as well. But you can add in LaGuardia Community College, and that project will only be visible to students that attend this school. So just letting you know how you can narrow it down here. And then you can indicate if you're open to students that have recently graduated or if they must be current students. And then you can include in some sort of application questions as well. So, why do you think we should select you for this opportunity? Will always remain. It's a standardized question that every student gets asked. It provides a lot of insight to you because sometimes a student will say, because this sounds interesting. That's not really a very complete answer. It's not giving you a ton of insight into their interests. Other students might give a much more detailed answer as to why they find your organization interesting and why they think they'd be a good fit. And so that really just helps with the easy screening process. And then from there, you can go ahead and post the project. All of our projects get reviewed again by the operations team. There's always a human being looking at your project before it goes live to students. So if they feel it's too much work for the 20-hour project or not enough or missing some key details, they will let you know. But other than that, it will get posted live for the students. Once a project is completed and the student turns in the deliverable to you, we ask just for a really short evaluation on your end. It's all embedded into the Parker Dewey platform, so it's nothing you need to create or anything like that. It's like a couple of questions on a scale of 1 to 5. How did the student do? That type of thing. And that feedback goes back to the student, the school as well, so that they're able to kind of see where everything stands. Take a pause here and see if there's any more questions.
I just also want to add, we are a partner in all this. So if you do post a micro internship like tomorrow or, July 1, feel free to reach out to me as well and give me a heads up. So, I could push your posting out even more, give you more visibility to the students. So we want to help you out as well on our career services end. And we have contacts with the faculty, and if you're posting a micro internship related to digital marketing, I know which department to push that out to give you extra visibility. And so hopefully if you have some discretionary fund, and this is a great way to use discretionary fund in your budgets to get things done, as Emily said.
Mhm.
So I just also wanted to leave that tidbit. I put my email in the chat for folks who need it.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm going to include a link to those example projects as well. If you'd like to take it back to your colleagues or your teams, you can grab that. I'm also going to put my email. I'm just very easy to find. I'm at emily@parkerdewey.com. And I'm just going to share one more slide with you before we wrap up. Again, just a QR code or a direct link to my email, emily@parkerdewey.com. If you just want to get stuff done and get started, by all means, go right ahead. But I'm still happy to walk you through the process and support whatever you need. So we try to make it very smooth and very easy for you. And again, you can have students applying to your projects within 2 days at this point. So no deadlines. You can post any time of year. And we work very closely with the schools to make sure that students are aware and excited about these opportunities. So with that, we are going to wrap up. I'd love to see if there's any additional questions. I'm happy to stay on. You can feel free to raise your virtual hand. I can unmute you, or you can type into the chat if you prefer as well. I'm going to stop recording.